And so we are now officially in business. So the task for today's meeting, this is actually going to be more of a seminar than anything else. The task for today is to determine the utility of the improved encounter editor. And the question that I will be asking is, does this thing deserve further work? And the problem I face is that from your point of view, since it's no skin off your nose, sure, go ahead, put some more work into it, Chris. So we need to decide whether it's actually worth the effort. And for that, first, has everybody had the opportunity to play with the version I sent out? Good. And, it's obvious, it's incomplete. It has the testing facility is inadequate, but it at least is helpful. My next task, by the way, will be to try to build a more extended barroom brawl to demonstrate some of the other features. I'm a little fearful that I will end up deciding that the barroom brawl is not the ideal scenario for testing the encounter editor, in which case I'll try something else. But the barroom brawl I've used that as sort of a toy scenario in the past, and that has always seemed to work fairly well. So I'll try it for this. Question then is, first, let's hear critical comments on the version of the encounter editor that I sent out. It's perfect. Oh, okay.
Yes, I got a question. The consequence button?
The consequence what?
The button for consequence?
Oh, yes, yes.
What's the utility for?
That is meant to enforce a direct sequence of encounters. That is, the engine, and I still haven't built the engine, but it's ridiculously simple. The engine's basic task is to go through randomly picking encounters, and then there are some logical constraints on those random picking. For example, there's the time window specified by the first turn and latest turn. And so it's keeping track of how many turns we're in, and it verifies that an encounter is in the correct time window. It also checks for prerequisites and disqualifiers. But otherwise, it's basically random. Now, I assume that the designer will set up some sort of rough temporal sequencing. I mean, if you want, you could just make the time window, 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 and guarantee a particular sequence. But this also allows overlap so that you don't get the thing feeling like you're being force marched through it. It also permits skipping of encounters, which is important if you want some variability in the user experience. The idea is you overbuild. You build 100 encounters with the expectation that on any given playing, the user will experience only 50. And that way the user gets some changing experiences. In fact, I'm taking advantage of this in Le Mortateur, in that there will be minor but useful details that you will not encounter the first time through. And so as you replay it, you start figuring out, oh, that's why that guy is that way. So let's see. What else? anyway, but consequences allows you to just hard specify, God damn it, this encounter is followed by that one, period. Other questions?
Okay,
oh, yeah?
got another one. This is a very quick one. The change of the earliest day for earliest turn. It's just a change of literal, okay? I mean, it doesn't imply anything else apart from changing from, it's the same.
Yeah, basically all it specifies is this is the time window.
Okay.
If the turn is if the turn is within the time window, this one can be selected. Otherwise, it cannot. That's all it does. Let's see. Do you think about having an in-game test inside the encounter editor, or do you want to keep it separated for some reason? I'm keeping it separated because I haven't gotten to it yet. Basically, I need to, you know, there will be a big step where I build the engine, and then I can start building the rehearsals right into the encounter editor. By the way, I'd really like to give it a special name because I've got half a dozen things. This thing has been evolving for 3 years, and I've got half a dozen programs that I'm calling the encounter editor, and I've tried to do it version 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm really tempted to, since this will have so many improvements, I'm really tempted to give it a new name. You know, maybe I could call it High Sierra or Yosemite or Catalina. But actually my preferred name right now is one of my favorite English words, slubberdigullion. Great word. It basically means a bad person, a lazy wretch. So I love that word. The other possibility might be dactylodictus, another one of my favorite words, which means worthy of being pointed out. Although if I want to get sexist, I could use, what's the other? Bathycopian, which means bathu as in bathyscaphe or bathyscope, or it means deep. And copian refers to cleavage in a woman. So the typical usage would be, whoa, baby, get a load of that Bathycopian chick there. Oh, she's hot. I'm in love. So that's how you might use that word. So anyway, end of digression. Let's see. Just out of curiosity, because I'm not sure if it's better to keep it separated. When will I get to it? Oh, boy. I am so swamped. We're having a big heat wave, so I'm frantically watering trees. We've got 170 new seedlings in the ground, and they have to be watered or they'll die. And they're spread out over several acres, so I'm dragging hose all over the place to water them. I'm rebuilding the deck, which is a huge job, and I really need to finish that. I haven't worked on Le Morte d'Arthur in 3 weeks now, so I'm overloaded. But fortunately, I was able to make good progress. I mean, I was surprised at how much work I got done with the revision of the encounter editor, and I shall attempt to. At some point, I'm going to clear some time. Basically, the good thing about the heat wave is that I cannot work outside in the afternoon. So I'm trying to set up a schedule where I work outside in the morning and then come inside and program in the afternoon. That may permit me to make more rapid progress. But basically, the plan will be first build the engine and then set up an interface to it in the encounter editor that permits a that permits you to run a rehearsal. There's some other things, but I really, other than the engine and the rehearsal, I'd very much like to hear any comments, criticisms, or suggestions on the existing design. Is there anything additional that you would like to see? You know, small stuff, you know, fix this, make this look better. Oh, I did make one small change. Null values. One of the things I did to make the programming much easier was I got rid of Java array lists, which are variable size arrays. And they're very flexible, and so you can have as many actors as you want, and you know, as many encounters, everything like that. I do have array lists for encounters, but for characters, options, and reactions, and the personality model, it's all fixed. You get only 7 characters, period. Not 8, not 6, 7. Now, you don't have to use all of those characters. They can be just left empty. Similarly, for every encounter, you get 5 options, no more, no less. Although, again, you don't have to use them all. For each option, you get, 4 reactions, I think, and that's it. By going to flat arrays, I was able to greatly simplify the programming and you know, make things run a lot faster. However, how do you specify that you want something to be unused? Previously, I just had some text in there that said unused option or unused reaction. On the suggestion of one of the Wednesday people, I replaced it with, I placed square brackets around that, and I did one other thing to make it a little more obvious that you can fill in something, but right now that specifies there's nothing in there. Let's see. Any other? Oh, wow, there we go. In the character setting window, the personality of every character can be changed, but what about perception values? Should be included. Actually, they're in there, except I haven't really made it clear yet. The user interface is bad. It's just I couldn't figure out a nice way to demonstrate that. The idea is that when you select a character, his row, horizontal row, changes color to indicate this is the active character, and you're specifying that character's personality traits. The other characters are a different color, and what you're setting for them are the p-values towards that character. Now, there is a minor problem there. That way, as you jump around among characters, you can set both the intrinsic values and the perceived values. The problem is that those are only the perceived values towards the selected character. There is a question, should they be towards or away from? That is, I decided that towards is better because the towards p-values should in some way parallel the actual values. In other words, if Joe is bad, good, plus 0.5, he's a good guy. Most people will see him as generally fairly good. There will be a few people who hate him, but that's an easier starting point to use the toward values. My problem is I just can't come up with a clean way to show on the interface that all these other values are the p-values towards the selected character. If anybody has a nice idea for how to do that, maybe a little arrow, I don't know. Let's see. I come from a communication design studio, so the thing I would look at to improve the current version is to see how different layouts could improve proficiency. If the goal of the software, besides its use, is to bring this theory to a wider audience. Well, yeah, certainly, improvements in layout are always desirable. I will caution you, though, that I'm using Java Swing. Has anybody here ever used Java Swing? The layout system is just, I've been using it for, God, 19 years now. I've been messing around with Java Swing. I have never understood how it works. I can get it to do most things fairly well, but there are always moments when I say, what the hell is it doing this for? And mostly I just randomly plunk around with things until I get it looking roughly right. So if you have these grand ideas, let's completely rearrange everything, you will get a bomb in the mail shortly thereafter. So, but Donalo, if you do have any suggestions that don't involve complete rearrangement, by all means, let's hear them.
Yeah, I don't think that a complete layout change would thus be the best option. But I don't know how many iterations of this exact layout there have been. But from what I've noticed in my past projects and looking at work of clients, is that once a layout seems to be definitive, it's hard to step away from it. And thus, we get stuck in this, it's not bad, it's not good situation. And because we're used to it, we don't want it to get away. So what you're doing here with bringing us in, getting a fresh pair of eyes to look at it.
Exactly.
That's step one. And then just say, one of the simplest things is just which part of the screen is most important. What's the direction or the flow or the encounter the user will go through with this program, and then accordingly size or design those steps so that it becomes intuitive without it becoming a standard app, because it's still designed for professionals, for people that actually want to use this software. It doesn't have to be dumbed down, but it shouldn't work against the user.
It should certainly be more, I mean, it should be fairly obvious what each component of the screen does. I mean, do you have any particular suggestions?
Not right now.
Okay.
I would have to do, I could, for the next time, I could give my own dissection of it from a whole point of view without pushing into certain directions for changes, but just how I look at it, what I find with, for example, I have the Barroom Brawl open right now, and the whole encounter list is just, it's one encounter and the rest of it is empty. Right, so it's taking up space that could have been used by something else, but if we do that, what's going to be a drop-down menu that at the end of the project is 200 items long? It's also not very effective.
Yes,
so
definitely. My intention is that a proper story world will have at least 100 encounters. So we do need a long vertical for that.
So maybe the program should scale with its layout, scale with the size of the encounter, with the size of the story, so that it doesn't get in the way. I don't know. I have to look at it a bit more. But I'll try to do that.
Here's a request I would make of everybody. Open up the encounter editor, take a screenshot of the whole window, and then bring it into a painting program or some sort of thing that allows you to mark it up, and just put in little text things saying, I'm not sure what this does, or, this is too small, or that's too big, or, could you use a different font, or whatever. Any comments, whatever just pops into your head about it. I would greatly appreciate it if you would have that, even if it were if you just put the text with a question mark next to it, that in itself tells me a great deal. You don't have to specify exactly what it is that's wrong with it. Just specifying the fact that you looked at it and you weren't sure what was going on. That in itself is very useful information. So let's see, I've started adding some tool tips, although some of the tool tips, for example, there's a button that says save. I figure anybody who looks for that tooltip deserves the tooltip they get. So anyway, let's see, there was another request here. Oh yes, I would like each of you right now to enter into the chat box a single statement based on your use of it on your computer. Should the window size or the amount of screen real estate that I'm using, should I use more, should the window be bigger, the same, or smaller? Do you have more space that you'd like me to use? Is it big enough? So just bigger, same, or smaller. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, Donalo would like it bigger? And Chris would like it smaller.
Yeah, I have a unconventionally large screen, so I'm in the minority there. But yeah, for me, it scales awfully.
Okay. Well, let's see, Scott, I'm researching how I might create a plugin for importing your XML files into the open source Fungus narrative game asset for Unity. Any legal issues you might, or warnings you might see from your end? I don't give a damn about any of that stuff anymore at this point.
Phew.
Oh yeah, everything I do, as far as I'm concerned, is public domain. These videos, the stuff on my website, I really don't care. The only thing I would sometimes appreciate it if, you know, if you're going to, you know, copy an entire essay out of my website and paste it somewhere else, it'd be nice to notify me, but it's not even necessary. So anyway, yeah, see, I'm retired now. So, I've always been self-unemployed, and so I just don't care about these things anymore. Scrabbling for money it's a lot easier just to live cheaply than to grab for every penny you can get. Let's see. But I'm curious, Scott, how do you really think it can fit into this other thing? Do you really think you'll be able to get them to mesh? I'd be surprised if you could actually get something functioning there.
Well, I've been using the Fungus for a while, just as kind of a prototyping tool for some other projects. And I think of all the kind of inexpensive 2D open source game assets that Unity has, Fungus does quite a lot. One thing it doesn't do yet is able to bring in kind of those character traits and comparisons. So from what I'm seeing from your XML files so far, you know, I have experimented with trying to get some variables put in there and kind of dovetail with the choices in there. What do they call that? It's not script editor. It's a fairly intuitive tool. I picked it up pretty quick, and I'm not a huge Unity fan. I'd like to be. It keeps breaking me all the time. But this fungus asset has made it really, really easy to create these types of narratives. They're just kind of missing your pieces, and but it does allow for you know, modifications to their engine being open source in that. So I don't know. It's just, I've got so many projects, and starting from scratch, and, you know, taking your editor, which is already, I mean, pretty far along. And I see what it's exporting. I'm just thinking, wow, if I could do most of the story work with your editor, and then quickly just export it over into the Fungus and put the pictures and make any kind of a 2D game I want. So anyway, I'm yakking.
Does Fungus, is it producing what is, you know, a sort of a text adventure, or is it more like a classic graphic adventure?
It does both. It does both.
Okay.
And not just the 80s. It's a little more current, and there's nothing super, you know, triple A, you know, but they've made a few games that I'd at least say are triple I.
This is Carl, opening your door. Sorry. Okay, did I discuss ink with you guys last week, or?
A little bit.
I can't remember.
And I've used Inkle Writer, which I don't know, maybe isn't probably as powerful as the script behind it, but.
Did I tell you that I looked over the scripting language and did not like it? Did I discuss that? Okay. Okay, good. Let's see. I will caution you. One of the things, I'm going to go off on a digression here. One of the things that bothers me a lot that I have seen, and in fact, interrupt me if I've already given you this rant, is that people are really stuck in the game's way of thinking, or perhaps I should say, perhaps the way to say it is, games right now are in such a deep rut that nobody even notices or realizes that they're in a deep rut. That is, the styles of thinking about game design. I've had a number of suggestions or comments that could be boiled down to, Chris, this won't generate a really good shooter or text adventure or, you know, puzzle game or whatever. And I really want to push you guys hard to recognize just how much your thinking is shaped by the environment in which you live and work. And it is narrowing your conception of what is possible. That is, I found that a lot of game designers really don't think outside the box at all. I mean, they don't even go near the edges of the box. And that is definitely part of the community. Now, the fact that you guys are here demonstrates clearly that you want to get out of the box. You've been thinking about it hard. You've got some ideas about how to do that. So you're the wrong persons for me to be yelling at over this issue. But I still want to urge you to be aware of how all of your experience and knowledge in many ways constrains you. And so it's useful to really push hard at the edges. And the best way to do that, by the way, is to connect game design to other things. You know, biology, linguistics, politics. They're just, you can get ideas from a million other things. It's those analogies, those metaphors, the similarities you see. Golly gee, you know, wonderfully took some of the concepts of language evolution. You know, that could make an interesting conflict. And the other thing that is useful in terms of getting out of the rut is to think in more abstract terms. I've given you, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've given you the bit about incremental creativity versus big leap creativity. Either way, have I done that? Oh, well, let me repeat it in case you've forgotten. Most people, in fact, to do this, I need to, excuse me, dog. Most people, the way they do creativity is they look down at their feet and say, well, this is where we are right now. So, gee, I could make it better by taking a little bitty step forward. And then, you know, I could improve this and take another little tiny step forward. And the entire industry is doing this. And that's, yeah, that's okay. And in fact, 95% of all progress is done through this type of incremental improvement. I mean, I'll give you an excellent example. Microprocessors. When we started off with the Intel 4004 back around 1970, you know, we had a really gutless processor. Nowadays, we have these magnificent things that are in billions of times better, and it was all achieved by making little tiny steps. Ooh, if we do this, we can make the channel size 3% smaller, and that will cut power consumption by 2%. And doing this for 50 years has resulted in some magnificent results. However, none of it would have happened if somebody hadn't taken the giant leap at the beginning of saying, you know, we could put all the transistors on one wafer and end up with a CPU. Those giant leaps are where the real progress happens. And those require abstract thinking. That is, if you're looking down at your feet, you're not going to see the mountaintop in the distance. So you've really got the very first thing you have to do is ask, where am I going? Why am I doing any of this stuff? What's the objective? Where's that mountaintop? Look around you and select a mountain. Now, me, I selected a mountain that just happened to be on the moon. And so I haven't gotten there. I don't recommend that approach. But, you know, you can select a hill or a nearby mountain or, you know, something more achievable. But if you don't select that mountaintop in the first place, and very few people do it, most people think incrementally. Another of my adages is, if you don't know where you're going, you probably won't get there. So set a goal, and you know, the goal should probably, I would urge you to make it something about people. That's the big chasm we face right now. We don't have any people in our game designs. How can you improve on that? Now, I went too far, but there's certainly a lot of things that can be done that bring people into games. And some of the basic elements are fairly straightforward. Personality models, we've gone through them. Faces, language of interaction, engine development environment, and so forth. So,
Chris,
yeah.
Surely it's not all then technological. It's more to do with economics. How do you get people interested in it? That seems to be the big bottleneck.
Yep.
How do you do that?
Well, see, again, here is where my magnanimous philosophy, I don't need money for this, I'm retired, works great for me, doesn't work for you. You know, you peasants need to eat, you know. So yeah, there's a serious issue there. And because of that, my suggestion is this got to be a part-time activity. You need a real job to pay the bills. And then nights and weekends, you have your secret project that will revolutionize the world. But how do you eventually commercialize it?
That's not even what I mean. Like,
Oh, okay.
assume like, let's assume I'm like a millionaire or a billionaire, so I don't need to worry about that. How do I get people interested? That's my
Okay.
question.
How do you develop the audience?
Exactly.
I'll tell you, the wrong way to do it is to try to tap into the game's audience. The problem is that audience already has expectations, and their expectations are part of the rut. They will judge you. This is something through my entire career I faced this problem. I still have it somewhere, a review of one of my games that was really a big step forward in terms of game design. It was an educational game. I was very pleased with it because it really made some big steps forward in terms of educational design. This reviewer said all sorts of nice things about it, but then said, ultimately, however, although I learned a great deal from this game, I have to admit it just wasn't fun. And that's the fundamental requirement of every game, and I therefore cannot recommend this product. And you will face that obstacle. Whenever you deviate from the norm, you will be criticized for the deviation. Audiences are the worst possible sources of useful criticism, because the only criticism they can give you is, this is not like what I'm used to. And so they are the wrong people to go to. What you want to do is develop a group of people who are different, who are aiming higher. Basically, it'll be peers, people like you who share your interests, who are trying to break out of the rut, and are willing to discuss these things. In fact, I have acted as a nucleus of crystallization for this in times past, although I let that go for a while. I did, however, set up, where is that? There we go. I did set up a discussion group, let's see, that is called Thaddeus, and it was pretty active about a year ago, up to about a year ago. But the thing is, without my constantly pushing, adding new stuff and so forth, the conversation always died out. I'm going to invite you guys to it. I've been meaning to do it for weeks. I'll just add that onto my ever-expanding list of things to do. Let's see. It could act as there are a lot of, the internet is choked with places for discussion. And the problem is, well, what's the ideal place? There's one source that a number of you have referenced. Can anybody?
Discord?
Yes, yes. Could somebody explain to me why that seems like a good place for these discussions? Scott, you want to?
I've been involved over the years on quite a few Discord servers, and I know it's the rage right now, but it kind of comes in waves. I'm kind of experiencing the same thing too with Discord groups, and I think anybody on here will agree with me that they start off all fired up. The the way they organize things, it makes it easy, and it'll just, you know, be super active for a while, and then whoever set it up isn't, you know, feeding the content, it starts to die off and maybe pops up again. And so I don't know.
I didn't use much Discord. Sometimes I do, but I don't think it leads to deep discussion. It's basically a chat, so everybody's saying if people are liking the discussion, it's basically lots of people talking. You lose the threads of discussions, and I don't like it for this kind of deeper discussion.
Yeah, you step away for a couple days, and stuff gets lost.
Yeah,
and there's just, I don't know, people don't pin stuff, and it's okay.
I've always felt that the bane of such discussion groups is the short, snappy, "Oh, wow, that's neat" comment, or "Oh, no, that sucks" comment. And with Thaddeus, I have banned such comments, not formally, but I've basically said, look, if you don't have at least a paragraph worth of content, then shut up. You know, we only want well-formed ideas here. So the Thaddeus content is substantial, I would say, and there's a goodly amount of it so far. But as I said, it's been dead for nearly a year now. So I will invite all of you guys onto that, and I'll try to seed the discussion with something new, and we can see if that leads anywhere. Thaddeus is specific to interactive storytelling, at least it is declared to be that, but in all honesty, it has expanded somewhat beyond that. And so I would, so if you want to talk about something that, so long as it's about people, you know, maybe I should rename it People, Not Things. So long as it's about that, I think we'll be fine, because I'm expecting that each of you will end up with some sort of idea that you would like to pursue. And that may not be interactive storytelling per se, but it could certainly be, so long as it's related to the idea of having interpersonal or dramatically significant interaction, then by all means, we need to explore it. So, let's see, any other thoughts? Or let's see, we've got, yeah, I've gone through all of my material. Wait, let me. Yeah. I've gone through all of my material. Any, it looks like we're ending early today. Any other comments or discussion? We've got 15 minutes. Nope. Okay. Well then, I will, oh wait, Chris Malone came back. Let me bring him in. He must have had a break in his, there we go. Chris, we are just closing up now. Unless you have, you know, final comments or questions. One thing I don't like about Discord is replying to earlier posts, okay. Do we have something for next week? First, we need to close out on all the lesson material. We never really finished that, and basically I'm going to say, follow it through to the end. And in fact, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't show up on the list of items. That is, it's, where'd it go? That's odd. Here we go. If you look at it on my website at the list, it lists 23 lessons. But in fact, if you go to lesson 23, there are a bunch of additional lessons that I haven't put them on the list yet because I'm not really that that confident in them. That I think they need more work, but there's a bunch of them there, and basically I'm going to say, let's open up the field. Everything, basically, all of the lessons are now open hunt on any of them. You can, for next week, we will discuss anything and everything in those lessons. And that will give me time to work on the encounter editor, because there's a big step before I'll have something ready for you. So for next week, all remaining lessons. Okay? Okay, then. I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.